That works. We are a volunteer, membership-based organization that is dedicated to betterment of Port Jefferson. Those who live in Port Jefferson Village, Port Jefferson School District, or Port Jefferson Fire District are eligible to join. Those who attend 3 meetings in a year and pay their dues can vote when we put things to vote. We are grateful to Port Jefferson Library for giving us home. Without it, we would be bouncing around in different places, so it's very lovely to have this. We have a board that is elected by our members. I am the president. Marilyn is our treasurer. We have Janice, our recording secretary. Holly, our vice president, is not here. And here's our, don't say that.
Outreach officer.
All right, outreach officer, Kathleen. Today we have a little bit of a party, so we will wrap up a little bit earlier to give us an opportunity to hang out, to discuss as we normally do, and have an opportunity to have maybe a little bit more intimate conversation with our head of the Planning and Building Department, Building and Planning Department. Let's start with a report of the officers. On my end, we are still working on.
He's running away.
Are you running away? Okay. We are tracing developments in the village. One of the really interesting developments that our village hall will have a vote on is the question of whether our code officers should or shouldn't have carrying guns. Please attend the hearing if you have an opinion. Other than that, do we have any reports?
The walkability group that formed a couple of months ago, Marilyn, myself, Michael Schwarting, and I think we have a new person that joined, Bob Lavari. Aren't you here? Yeah. The mayor had asked us to work with the CAC, which is the Conservation Advisory Council, to work on walkability. So the 3 priorities is we're going to create maps. Suggestions from us was to have a west side street map and an east side street map, and we can talk more about that if there's time. To have a survey go out to all residents, asking them questions, and Mike's developed some questions already. It was a 3rd thing, I don't remember what it is. So we're gonna meet next week before the next CAC, or we're not gonna go to necessarily every CAC meeting. We wanna work in between and figure out what we need to do to push things ahead with the maps. And it would be, the maps would have the keys to them that hopefully that Haydick Engineering had provided in this draft of a report from 2022 about walkability in Port Jefferson and safety. But it's not a final draft, and I don't have the colors in the map, in the copy I have of the report. You know, there aren't any colors, and so it's hard to figure out. But so we're also working on getting that final draft with help from them to create these maps with the keys about where we need these sidewalks the most and so forth. Okay, and then I could do a quick tree committee report where
It's a village. It's not.
I thought we have a liaison.
Let's. Marilyn, can you give us the update on the finances?
Okay, and just an addendum to what Janice said. If anyone wants to weigh in while you're physically here, let us know. We would appreciate your feedback, as opposed to just waiting for that survey. What do you think about it? Informally, we're not going to hold you to every word you say, but we'd like to get some feedback, right? Okay, so regarding our status here with the banking, we need anyone who has paid, you need to renew in order to be a voting member of the Civics Association. In our tally right now is $1,553.44. There are some members that have been generous. They'll pay $40 and an additional $60, so we appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're always watching our pennies. And that's about it. Like I said, it is time to renew, and we do appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you, Marilyn. Can I put a plug in for working groups? We're gonna be trying to get more working groups going. I was just speaking to, and that's about the light pollution. There's people concerned about noise pollution. There were other concerns that were sent to us when we had a meeting where people wrote on cards that we paid attention to, and we have to reach out. If there's one person that signed up, we're gonna try to ask that person to kind of build up so they could form a working group in between, that kind of thing, okay?
Yeah, I have a question for the banker.
Mr. Banker, please.
Yes.
In the past,
Yes.
a long time ago, the Civic Association received some funds from either Suffolk County or representative there or the town. And they had some money that they could sort of give to keep these organizations going and help. Have any of them offered?
They have not.
Could we check in to see if it's
Absolutely.
available? They did it in the past.
Okay, what is the name of the institution?
Well,
Suffolk County?
Suffolk County Legislature and the town
And the town.
are representatives.
Thank you, Michael.
And they have discretionary funds sometimes for that purpose.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Here is your receipt. Thank you.
All right.
We paid you to speak. Thanks.
Thank you. Kathleen, do we have any reports from you? Outreach officer? No, I don't know.
How about our young,
We have a report from Mr. Drew from our schools.
Just trying to stand where the camera is. Good evening, everybody. So, I'm gonna go through what happened just this past month and what's going on in the future and everything. So, just this past month, the weekend before Thanksgiving, the high school put on 3 great performances of Romeo and Juliet, which was really great to see. I saw it twice. I feel very lucky. It was great to see some of my friends performing in it, and it was really just a great experience. And I did win the 50-50 raffle, but we had to donate that back to the school. I wanted to do that. But we had that. Of course, we had Thanksgiving break. Then after that, these are my notes. So then after that, we had the first week back from Thanksgiving with the NYSSMA All-State Winter Conference, which happened upstate this year, which was really, really incredible to see some of our students going there. I got to see students from other schools who I knew going there too, so really, really great event.
Can you explain the acronym? NY, is it New York State?
The New York NYSSMA is, sorry, I'm doing that from, it's the New York State School Music Association. Sorry, that's coming from my inner theater kid. I just know NYSSMA by heart. Tonight is the middle school grades 7th and 8th winter concert. So if you're here, you're probably not seeing that right now. Tomorrow, tomorrow there's a Board of Education meeting, which is a public meeting at 7:30, so you can address anything. It'll be the last public meeting of the year. The 12th, this Thursday, is the high school winter concert, which I will be in. So if you'd like to come there at 7 p.m. on Thursday, that would be very, very cool. The next week will be our final week of school, and on the 17th, the Board of Education Policy Committee and Curriculum Committee will meet. Following that, there will be no school for the rest of the year, as there will be winter recess, and that'll lead us into January. Nothing comes up in the beginning of January, so that concludes my report, and hope we enjoy the meeting tonight. Thank you.
We are, that's the end of our reports. And now we have an opportunity to have Mr. Andy Freleng to speak to us about our village, our planning and building department. Please have your questions, because we will be asking questions, and he would be willing to answer some of them. All of them.
If he feels like qualified.
Please.
Build this forward. A barrier between you and me, just in case. This is what I got for you. Nothing.
That's what we want. No, that's all we want.
Thank you.
No more
You
development.
would have thought I would have been very prepared for tonight, and I've only gone over my notes 3 times and then left them in the printer on the way over here. So I'm going from my rough notes, but I think I got it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all for inviting me tonight. I don't think you need the microphone, but if you do, or if I start to fade out, just let me know. Lots of familiar faces. If you don't know who I am, I'm Andy Freleng. I'm the Director of Building and Planning for the Village of Port Jefferson. That's my main function, Director of Building and Planning, and I've got about 27 other responsibilities as well that all gel into what I do. So I was asked to come here tonight to talk about the comprehensive plan, the state of the village, development projects that are percolating in the village, things that are going on. So I wanted to give you some facts a little bit about the village, just to put us all into perspective. I think you know your village, but let's just rattle through some things. You know that Port Jeff is 50 miles away from Manhattan, from New York City. We got about 3.09 square miles, so a little bit bigger than 3 miles. We have about 1.5 miles of shoreline still remaining. Port Jefferson has a population of about 7,500 people, approximately 3,093 households. 70% of the households in the village are owner-occupied. 30% are rentals. We have a median age of 45.6 years, so for all you youngsters out there that are 45.6 years old, you're the median age. The median household income is about $121,270, which is higher than a lot of median incomes in the area. And as you know, most visitors come by auto, some come by bus, some come by train or ferry. When we looked at the comprehensive plan, I didn't bring the comprehensive plan with me because that would have been a stack about this big, and then I was going to bring the zoning code as another prop and put that on this side. But I figure you all know it, and it's on the internet anyway, so really the volume of what it looks like is now lost in the virtual world. But it's a 166-page document, our comprehensive plan. It's got 300 action items in it, and it is broken down into 15 chapters. There's 56 action items just for the C2 district alone, which is what I've been concentrating on since I got here about a year ago. I'm sorry, that's the commercial business district in the area by the railroad tracks.
Oh.
Okay. The main thrust of the comprehensive plan is to revitalize and redevelop our commercial areas and maintain the residential charm and character that we have throughout the village. And again, one of the main focuses of the comprehensive plan was to focus on the commercial business districts and try to develop transit-oriented districts. Transit-oriented districts are districts that are walkable, that are usually around the hub of a train or an intermodal hub. So uptown we've got the train and the buses, downtown we have the ferry and the buses. So both commercial business districts are suitable to be termed a transit-oriented district. Okay. So there have been some achievements from the comprehensive plan, and I think it was a very exciting time for me to come back to the village. I was a trustee in the village in 99, 2000. I left in 2003. I did work on the planning board for 3 years before that, and then I took a very long 40,000-foot vacation at the Suffolk County Department of Planning, Economic Development and Planning. What we did there was we referred referrals from the towns and villages, but we didn't get it down to they don't like me to use the word granular, so at the county, we didn't get down to the pixelated level of development in the village. So when I walked into the village, I got gobsmacked with all the issues that neighbors regulating neighbors deal with that we didn't deal with at the county. So it's taken me a while to get back into the grind and be able to duck and handle projects. But some of the achievements, so it was important for me to come in when I did because the comprehensive plan is very important. The comprehensive plan is a product out of visioning. And when I was here in 2000, we did a lot of visioning on what we wanted the village to look like. So that visioning went into the development of the comprehensive plan with 300 action items on how to get to that vision. A lot of those action items have been implemented, particularly in the commercial business districts. So there was some tweaking in the commercial business districts. One of the main things was to allow mixed use in the commercial business districts. That wasn't there back in the day. So we did some tweaking on that. We did some overlays in the business district, particularly by the railroad tracks, which allowed more of a mix of retail and professional office, or retail and residence. So there was some tweaking in the code there. There was a requirement or a action item in the code to create a station street, which allowed a safety valve for northbound traffic to break off of the 25A corridor and go towards Highland Boulevard or Oakland Avenue. So that was a main achievement because that project was done and we did get Station Street. I'll just stop there. Okay. And I wasn't here. Okay, and payment for parking, payment in lieu of parking, I'm not quite sure when that came in, but that became a factor in the comprehensive plan to allow this payment in lieu of parking. Okay, so that was the vision of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan, let me just see if I can find that. I did say that, okay. So there were 300 action items in 15 chapters, okay. So, I'm just gonna show you these props, okay. You may be familiar with the zoning map that's online. The zoning map that's online, one of the things that we were able to do when I got here was to bring some of the technology of the county, and we redid our zoning map to a digitized zoning map. This is tax map based. You can zoom in on it when we post it, and it'll be posted soon. You'll be able to zoom in and you can actually find your parcel. Also, the zoning has been adjusted. If you have a piece of property and there's a zoning line, let's say it's residential and commercial, whichever one is more dominates your lot, and your lot is regulated by the dominant zoning. So in order to eliminate all those split lots, we calculated where the zoning code is. So there should be no lots now that are split zone. Every lot, when it comes in for an application, will have one zone that's applied to it. We won't have to do a split zone calculation. So that's just a nerdy thing on the inside that we have to deal with. But if you're a property owner and you've got a zoning district change that runs through your property, that's problematic sometimes. So we have this digitized zoning map, and we have all the zoning categories. There are 17 different zoning categories in the Incorporated Village of Port Jefferson. I think it's a little shining star for me to be in the Village of Port Jefferson. It is probably the most dynamic village in all 32 villages in Suffolk County. We've got just about 2 of everything. We've got 2 hospitals, not counting the hospital up the road. We've got 2 commercial business districts. We've got 2 point of entries. We just keep going. We've got sewer and water. So we're a very dynamic village. So, and our zoning code and these districts show that. I was going to go into the zoning code and the uses that are permitted and the uses that aren't permitted, but generally speaking, in the commercial business zone, we allow commercial uses, okay, and a whole list of commercial uses. We have a permissive code. The uses that are listed are what you're allowed to do. If it's not listed in your code, you are not allowed to do it. So somebody will come in and say, well, I want to do this, but I can't find it in your code. It's not a permitted use in the zone. You need to get a use variance or change your operation so it becomes something that we have in our code that's permitted. So that is a type of code we have. It's a permissive code, okay? And I recommend permissive codes because if you start to list the things that you don't want, and then a new use comes along like smoke shop, or a new use comes along like oxygen bar, where do you do that? So then that goes to the building inspector. He determines what type of use it is, and if he can't determine what type of use it is, you have to go to the zoning board of appeals and get a use variance. So we have a permissive code. Okay. Let me see if I can give you some data. Okay. So our largest zoning category by the percent of parcels. So remember, we have over 3,000 parcels. The largest zoning category by percent, is the RB3 zone,
Which is residential, right?
which is the residential zone. Okay, so you can see just from the zoning map that the residential categories take up most of the village space, okay? The red is our commercial categories. Okay, so this zoning map represents what the comprehensive plan was looking for, and we tweaked our zoning. what we have to do is we have to get from our land use map, which shows the land uses. Now you might look at this pattern, just look at the pattern going up Belterre Road, for example, or even up Barnum Avenue. See that pattern? But if you look at the zoning map, it's a lot cleaner. So what does that mean? That means that we have uses that are not permitted by the zone. They're called pre-existing uses. The idea for us is to get these pre-existing uses to look like our zoning map. So that's what, so we have a zoning map, which is what the code requires, which comes out of our comprehensive plan. This is the vision of our village. And then we have a land use map, what actually shows what's going on in the village. So these two products help us do planning in the village. Okay. So I was going to rifle off some stats and things like that. The largest percent of parcels in the village, number of parcels that we have 1,626 parcels in our medium density residential zones. So that's not the RB2, that would be our high density zone, but our medium density zone is this orange here, and that includes a lot of the RB2, RB1 and the R1 zones. Okay, so we've got the RB1 up in here. RB2 is, I'm sorry, RB2. RB3 is our highest density zone. You can see that comes right off the commercial business district. This is downtown. This is up by the railroad tracks. Okay. So you can see that by percentage-wise, I won't give you the numbers. You can get the numbers. By the way, I am flipping through 3 presentations that I did for the Village of Port Jefferson Board of Trustees, and they're all on the web. Call my office, we'll give you the links if you want. But this one was on an update of the Village of Port Jefferson's 2030 Comprehensive Plan status. One was on parking stall demand reduction, and one was on updating the, yes, it was a report to the Village Board of Trustees on converting our maps to a digitized map, land use map. We also have another map, which we won't talk about. It's just a map that we're using internally for facilities. So we actually plotted all the facilities that the village has, so we can do an inventory of everything that we have.
What's the date of the zoning?
Okay, it says, it would say, well, it's a draft, this was a draft that we were working on, but it was done, we updated it in 2024.
And the other map was 2016?
Yeah, this land use, it says 2016 because the way we started, this again is a draft, Suffolk County does a land use analysis of all of Suffolk County, over 500,000 parcels. That was one of the last things I did. So we look at every single parcel in the county, and we put a code on it, and then we compare it to the aerial photographs that we could get. The most recent air photos were 2023. So we compare the 2016 land use, which was the last time the county did it, to the 23 aerials, and then we come up with an updated land use map. Something I wasn't going to say, but I'll say this anyway. This is a live interactive map. We have a system with the county, I'm not sure if they rolled it out publicly yet, that if you're driving down the road and you say, oh, that vacant lot now is a gas station, you have the ability to contact our office, contact the county directly through a form that's online, and you can put in, this lot is no longer vacant, it's now a gas station. The county will contact us. We have one person that's in charge of the gatekeeper here. We sit down, we look it up, we say, that's right, or that's wrong, or it's not a gas station, it's a convenience store, or whatever. But so this is live and interactive. So I need to get the county to give us the link, and I need to find out when they're gonna roll that out publicly. So we'll have a document that you can input information into this document. The zoning map doesn't change that often. If we get a change of zone application, we'll change the map when that happens. Okay, so we got some data, we got some stuff. What do you really want to know? Let's see. Yeah, I mean, if you get the report, you see pie charts on number of parcels and percentage of parcels. We're working on our matrix. I don't know if you can see that, but we're working on a matrix of recommendation. Was it completed or not? What you really want to know is, I think, some of the fundamental overview of development happenings in the village. You want to know what's going on. So let me start in the area that has the most activity since I got here, and that is the area by the train station. Notice I haven't given it a name yet. I'll save that for the end. But the area by the train station, okay, this area up here, the C2 district, okay. In my presentation, we identify the parcels, but in order to protect the guilty, I'm just gonna talk about the parcels. You know who we are, so you'll know. But let me start at the intersection of New York State 25A 112 and North Country Road. Okay, so now I'm at the northeast corner of North Country Road and 25A. Okay, let me go across the street to the northeast corner. Okay, the project is called One North. All right, that was just recently completed. They received their COs. They're out there marketing to fill up. From what I understand, they're about 2/3 full. They've got a couple of people already living in there, and they're well on their way to completing that project. That's a mixed-use project. It has commercial retail on the bottom. There's going to be a bank in there, and it has residential on top. Please don't ask me the numbers. I think it's somewhere around, everything's somewhere around 50 units, but that's a little less than, I think it's 42, 43 units in that one. So that project is One North. You see that one's just about done. Across the street from that, on the southeast corner, is a speculative venture that may include as much as the church, wrapping all the way around to Tara's Inn. So that is a speculative venture. I can't give out too much details. There's nothing concrete on that, but they're looking to do, again, mixed use, retail on the bottom, residential on top. That's what the comprehensive plan is calling for, mixed use along Main Street. Okay, so that's 2 of the 3 projects. You're aware of, so moving up to the railroad tracks, you're aware of the first project. It was originally called Conifer 1, now it's called Stations Crossing. That project's complete. It's a 100% affordable housing project. It's got 43 units, I think, in there, somewhere around 50. So that one's done. Never really done, but it's done being built. From what I understand, and this is hearsay, there's nothing official, I've got nothing in my office for it, but a dance studio would like to locate in the bottom corner. That's been a persistent discussion now for several weeks, so that might be, we've had a couple of people in and out. Big problem there, when the DOT came through and made left turn lanes for Linden and a left turn lane for Sheep Pasture Road, they took away the parking. They shifted everything over to make that left turn lane, so they took away the parking in front of the Conifer projects. And that really impacted them a lot. It's very hard for them to find a tenant, so they think they have a tenant. What we've been able to do in the village, and I can talk a little bit about some of the parking stuff that we've been looking at through the parking committee, but we've been able to work with them and try and assist their parking. Remind me if I forget to talk about the parking committee and some of the things
That upper railroad area, you mean?
for the upper railroad area, yes. Okay. Okay, that's Tara's Inn. Nothing's happening at Tara's Inn. That was just a landmark. 1501 I did. Okay. Perry Street lot. Talk about that. Texaco lot. So there are 2 public parking lots uptown. You do know that, right? The Perry Street lot and then the Texaco lot on the other side. Okay, so that is a public parking lot. You do know the completed project, The Hills, Port Jefferson now, that's on the far west side of the district. It's a completed condo project, used to be the car wash. So you went into the car wash and you'd wrap around. So that condo project right back there is The Hills. That is a luxury rental. Okay, so what did I leave out?
Conifer 2.
Conifer 2, thank you. Okay, so Conifer 2 is sponsored by the Conifer Project. It's called Port Jeff Commons is the name of the project. It too is an affordable housing project, fully affordable. It has a different benchmark of affordabilities. Conifer 1, I think, I can't remember what the percentages of the median income. You know that when you do affordability, you're required to do a certain amount depending on your funding stream, whether it's low income, middle income, higher income, but it's all benchmarked on the median income level of the area. The first project was the low range. The second project is the higher range, so you're gonna have more professional starters starting out in their professions in these type of buildings as opposed to the other building. But that is also a 100% affordable project. Between the two, it's a little short of 100 units of affordable units uptown. Now, just so you know, New York State requires that for every full density project, 10% of the units have to be affordable units. So every project that comes in after, you can assume that 10% of them will be either workforce, which is the higher end, or affordable, which is the lower end of affordability.
Where is Conifer 2 proposed to be?
Conifer 2 is the bunch of abandoned buildings right next to Conifer 1. So as you're traveling
So
north,
north
you
of
pass the
Conifer
Conifer
1.
1, then you got the string of abandoned buildings. I've been working with them to demolish those buildings. We were going for December, and now they can't get the sign on the dotted line, so things are stretched along. But we were hoping to have those buildings demolished and removed and the site prepped by the end of this year. So as soon as I said the end of this year, I cursed us, and now it's not gonna happen at the end of this year. So we're working with them, we're knocking on their door, we're calling them every day to say when we wanna get this blight out and we wanna start the project. So they get a call from me every week. So they're just not ready to sign on the line. They don't have control of all the parcels. Once they do, they'll file for their demolition permit and we'll get that project rolling. What I didn't mention then was a project called the Baxter. Anybody know that? Baxter? Not been reading your papers. Okay, there is a proposal and it's going for some funding to get it started. I should mention that Conifer 1, Conifer 2, they both received funding to get them kick-started. I think Conifer 1 got funding to do Station Street. Conifer 2 is getting funding to do the demolition. This project now is on the west side of Main Street. It's called the Baxter. The Gitos are sponsoring this project. I think they'll let me say that. And basically it's going from, if you know the west side of Main Street, if you know the parking lot, okay? Parking lot on the west side. If you go one building north, that's a brick building, it's got a couple of apartments on top. It used to be a thrift store or a thrift something before my time.
Army Navy?
Okay.
Was it the Army Navy?
No, not the Army Navy by the tracks. No, I'm right in the middle. I'm right in the middle now between
We're still
Linden.
ready.
I'm between Linden. I'm uptown.
Okay.
Between Linden. Oops. I'm between Linden and the train and
The tracks.
between Linden moving Baxter, moving north. Okay, from Linden. If you know the building that says in blue letters Port Jeff on it, big blue letters on the facade. Okay, and the roof is falling apart, which we've been after them for.
Oh.
But, so from that building, across the parking lot to the brick building that was the thrift store, those 3 lots is a mixed-use project called the Baxter. They're gonna have about 1,000 square feet of retail on the ground floor, and then, apartments above. Okay.
How many, they're all, what, 3 levels above the retail?
Well, you should say that, I was just about to say. The C2 district allows you, as of right, to do 3 stories. Ground floor retail is required, okay? And then 2 floors of apartments. If you're on Main Street, you could do office or something if you go further back. But it allows you to go 3 stories. Okay. The code allows you to go for a 4th story, as of right. What you need to provide, when I say you, the developer needs to provide a public benefit, a substantial public benefit, not defined. Okay, so when an applicant comes in and says, yeah, I'd like to do a 4th floor, or I want to do a rooftop restaurant, we say, well, you need to provide us a substantial public benefit. Now, it's not defined, and nobody's offered anything, but we've talked about a lot. When I walk in, I'm going for the juggler, and I'm asking, I want a municipal parking lot. Knock down buildings and pave me a municipal parking lot uptown Port Jeff. And you can see their hair catch fire. That's a lot of money, right? But there are other things, parkland. Think of public amenities, community space, community building, all these things. Not gonna get all of that out of one project, but every project can do something. Okay, so we've got these projects uptown, and we're talking to them about the 4th floor. The Conifers went through the Zoning Board of Appeals projects now that are coming through my office that I'm here will not go through the zoning board of appeals. If you want that fourth floor, you're either gonna give us a public benefit, or you're not gonna get the fourth floor. You're not gonna get the opportunity to go to the ZBA, staff will not support it. So, we're looking to get some amenities uptown and not at the public's expense. Okay. So that's really what's going on uptown. Question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is one of those projects supposed to be all studio apartments, but people starting out? I heard something about that.
Well, you can make affordability by design and design tiny little affordable apartments and sell them market rate. Or you can design 2, 3-bedroom apartments and then be forced to sell them for whatever the income level is that you're fixed at when you do affordable. The projects that are coming in are generally going to studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms. Various different mixes depending on the project. The Baxter wants to target graduate students and doctors doing residency. So they're looking for, higher end studios, higher end 1-bedrooms. Yeah. But every project comes in with a mix because they gotta make that balance sheet.
All right, hold on, I saw a hand over here, a hand over there.
I heard that it's possible that the train station is moving to Lawrence Aviation, so that seems like a really bad idea, given you're trying to have a walkable, transit-oriented development uptown. It kind of shoots that.
So you must have been reading my notes. There is a 20-year plan to electrify the Port Jefferson rail and to locate a electric rail yard and then possibly to move the Port Jefferson station. From my perspective, I would agree with you. This is not an official opinion, but we're working real hard to make a TOD right here. And a transit-oriented development is ideal if it's a 5-minute walk. So you could go to any corner of the C2 district over here, even from over here and walk all the way over there, it's 5 minutes or less.
Would you point out how far Lawrence Aviation is from?
It's off the map.
It is off the
Yeah,
map?
it's down that way.
Really?
Yeah. So here's the thing about, if you're gonna move the train station, I wouldn't move it any further east than Texaco. I'm sorry, west, any further west than Texaco, because once you start to pull it further away, then it's not in the heart of our high-density area that we built this high-density area for. So this is a long ways off. I'm not even sure MTA is that set on even having an electric rail yard there. I read the papers, you read the papers, so it's on and on and off. Probably not in my career will we have to deal with that. Maybe not in my lifetime will we have to deal with that. But I don't think it's logical to move the train station. Yes, it would be nice to get the train station to the other side so you don't have the gate drop. So the goal is to eliminate the gate drop, but not to move the train station all the way to the electric yard. I don't think that is feasible. Okay, we'll take questions.
Hold on. One more question and then, please.
Is there an architectural concept, the buildings that are gonna be done, or are they gonna be all ad hoc, depending on what the developer wants to do?
You mean for,
Yeah, so you're gonna do apartments on the west side, east side, are they all gonna be at the whim of the developer?
I can only speak for when I'm here. What happened before I got here, I can't speak to. But for the projects that I've been working with the speculators on, those 5 projects, they know they have to go to the Architectural Review Committee as part of the planning process. Okay? The Architectural Review Committee makes recommendations back to the planning board, and that's how we got Conifer 1 and 2. I wasn't here for that. I came in at the tail end of Conifer 2 and worked with the developers really hard on the Perry Street facade, and they gave me a lot of reasons why at this point they couldn't make the changes that I wanted because the design was so far down. We're not gonna have that problem with the other projects, and we also have design guidelines that come from the Architectural Review Committee, which will be part of the review process. So that comes in.
Before we take any more questions over here, let me ask you 3 questions.
Okay, I'm not done.
You're not
My
done.
presentation.
You're still in the presentation, go ahead. Let's finish the rest of
Okay.
your presentation.
Okay. So, we'll talk about all the development and stuff like that. I'll answer all your questions as we go, but I did want to wrap up with, one of the things that we, the mayor and the board of trustees and planning, realize is that, we have a very intelligent constituency. We have a very involved constituency, and we want all your thoughts. So we have developed an economic opportunity task force. It's one of the task forces, it's one of the things that you can join from the Make a Difference website. We're looking for volunteers to come on, but this economic development task force, they got together and they've made a mission statement, okay? And part of this mission statement is, and I've been working on the schematic flow chart and everything like that, but a lot of the mission statement is to make the connectivity between the residents and the business owners in the C2 district, okay, and start to make what kind of retail do you want? What type of community services do you want? What does the public want in there? And we're going to connect directly to the developers and the speculators. We're going to try and make a forum where they can talk to each other. So, I mean, I think that's good for a speculator when he comes in and he proposes his project. There have been people that have worked on the project. They know what's going in the project. It helps get better projects. So we have this opportunity task force, economic opportunity task force, and we would like you to join it. Okay. We're looking at uptown. We're looking at the downtown. We're looking at all different areas and different ways that we can make economic opportunities and help out the people that are having businesses in the village and the people that use the businesses in the village. We have some chronic problems in the village. As you know, every project that comes into the village has a parking shortfall. We're looking for creative ways to deal with parking. We're trying to get developers to understand that, hey, if you propose a convenience store in Brooklyn, you're not even talking about parking. How come, right? First of all, there's no requirement for parking, and second of all, the business model is foot traffic. So if you look at the comprehensive plan, and I'll take this number and I'll throw it out, you all panic, but the comprehensive plan envisioned a max of 500 units uptown. If there's 2 people per unit on average, some will have more, some will have less, but that's 1,000 people. That's 2,000 feet walking around everywhere uptown in 2030 when this plan was supposed to be implemented. If we can get our speculators and our business people to start thinking about foot traffic and the fact that no matter where they park, in less than 5 minutes they will be there, we can start to get things moving again and get away from this suburban model that if I build something, I have to have parking right in front of the store. Okay? And the parking committee has been working very hard with the merchants in our village to get them to understand that the enemy is your staff. Your staff comes in before the restaurants open up, they park in all the good spots, and then the customers come and they complain, I gotta park here, or how come I have to? So we're starting to get them to understand that. The parking committee has recommended for the C2 district that the Perry Street lot not be metered. We're trying to get people to use the Perry Street lot. You know, it's metered. If you go there, you gotta, pay $1.50 an hour. $3 for the first 2 hours minimum, and then you get $1.50 an hour after that. They've recommended, and the Board of Trustees has enacted it, the Perry Street lot is now free, and we're trying to get commuters. We got a complaint from MTA that there are residents parking in the commuter lot. We need to get them out of the commuter lot, so we wanted to give them a free place to park. Now they can park there. We just haven't seen much in the way of change, but when we start either metering or ticketing the MTA lot, we'll see some behavioral changes. But, and we also, you might notice that when you come into the village now, there's a sign that says municipal parking, points down to the Perry Street lot. So the parking committee has been looking at the timing of the streets. We're getting ahead of what's going on downtown, where we have a vibrant downtown. By the tracks, though, is a little bit anemic. We're trying to get that going. We've got projects in the hopper. We want to look at parking before it becomes a problem and address all of that. I haven't mentioned parking structure. Parking structure is like the last thing you want to think about when you do parking. If you're on the parking committee, I know Michael's going to fall asleep hearing me say this, but the first thing you do is you count your parking spaces to make sure you have enough spaces. Then you redistribute where everybody's supposed to park. And then the last thing you do is you come up with new structures or new places to park. So the last thing that we're going to be talking about are parking structures. There really aren't too many good places to put them. The most logical place is the Perry Street lot, because from the MTA lot, you got a higher grade. The Perry Street lot is low. You could cost effectively build a deck right across the Perry Street lot. If and when we have a problem of success uptown, that would be the place to talk about. But we might get, as part of public benefits, we might get the offer to build surface parking up there too. So we might be ahead of the curve when it comes to parking uptown. Let's hope. Downtown, we have a real problem with parking. We've had some speculating, some very minor speculating on the Gap lot. First conversation is parking. So we need to figure out, how did they do parking in the past? Because the Gap was a retail building. There was parking for the Gap. People came in, came out. So we have to decide how we're gonna address that. Do we give them credit for that parking? Because now we know the building's vacant, but the parking lot's full. So what happened? So these are tough problems that we're gonna be dealing with, and I don't have any answers for you, but I'm just telling you that we've been looking at them and we're trying to come up with creative ways. Okay. If I haven't thought of it, I'm sure it'll pop in my head while you ask questions. So I guess, Madam Chair.
As you know, density, and especially the development by the train tracks, is one of the key kind of like boiling points in the village. And one of the really interesting points in the code is that by code, the village trustees must maintain Village of Port Jefferson rural-like appearance. Yet the comprehensive plan is effectively building an urban environment, not as high density as it is in New York City, but it is still a relatively vibrant, hopefully vibrant urban environment, especially with the transit-oriented development. Now we have further discussions about accessory dwelling units being codified as a part of our code. Further discussions about increasing density in other parts of the village. How do we square this circle?
Square the circle. Well, that's a good question. Every project that we have goes out for referrals. One of the, I'm sorry. Every project that comes in, we do internal referrals. One of the internal referrals goes to the Architectural Review Committee. Architectural Review Committee knows the sentiments that we want to be a rural-looking community. So there's a process, and that's how we take the sentiments of the plan, the desires of the developer, and we try and blend that in with advice from our Architectural Review Committee to try and get that rural look. Having said that, though, I think that the C2 district is envisioned to be a higher density. While it will be higher density, it can still have a look to it. And we rely on the ARC to help us work with the architects and the engineers on getting those buildings to look that way. Sometimes when they design them, the interior workings of the building can't allow what we're looking for. And that happened with Conifer 2. I got there too late. What we were asking for with the cupolas and peaks and stuff like that, they couldn't do without rearranging a lot of stuff. It was too late. So hopefully we get in there in the beginning and we have the conversations, we have the public meetings, and we try and get the character of the community that we want. I know, again, I've been talking to our speculators and I say, give me a rendering so we can all start looking at what you're proposing as the face of these buildings. Okay. How's that? That's the best thing to do on that one.
The second question is that within our code, we have clearing limits.
Yes.
How much we can clear, and there's a certain requirement that the rest of the lot must be natural environment.
Yes.
Which presumes, but it's not codified, it should be native plants, and it shouldn't be managed. It shouldn't be mowed, it shouldn't be cleared, it should be left for nature. However, the enforcement of that code is incredibly lax. In my own experience, where a number of my neighbors come in and they just like clear, if not their full denuding of the property, and then they come back later for further permits, and those permits are granted, even though there is a violation. There are other situations where they might have not taken down the trees, but they've mowed everything and will remove the entirety of the natural look. There are a number of trees that are continually being cut down because they're allowed to take out two trees per lot without a permit. And that's all the roads, that idea that you need to have a certain number of uncleared and manicured area. How can we deal with that issue?
Okay. We have a chapter in our code called tree clearing and grading. If you're gonna be cutting trees on your property, you really need to check with the village, building and planning, to see if you need to get a tree clearing and grading permit. 2, we are a complaint-driven department, okay? I'm not saying that if we're driving around and we see an egregious thing going on, we're not going to stop and check out what's going on. But if we get a complaint, the first thing I do is I send an inspector out there. Now, you might be confusing me with Andy Owen. Andy Owen was the chief of code, and it would be code enforcement that would, if we go and we say, hey, you don't have a tree clearing permit, you don't have a building permit, that tree that you're cutting down right now is more than 3 inches, I think is the caliper, whatever the caliper is, stop. Okay, so we stop them and we check in the office to see if they've got what they've got, and if they don't, we get them to come in and to file a permit. Revegetation is all part of that. So staying on top of that, we periodically check all our tree clearing and grading permits. But some people are slippery. Some people go out and cut down a tree, we get a complaint, we run over there and look at it and say, oh no, it was diseased, it was dying, you know, let's see the log. It really wasn't, but I can cut down 2 trees. All right, don't do it again. And then we get another phone call, we go back again, he cut down 2 more trees. Sooner or later, he's gonna get a violation. He's gonna get a summons. Okay. But we can't see everything that's going on, particularly in the backyards and things like that, so we're complaint driven. If you call my office, we'll send an inspector out there right away. If we see that there's a problem, we'll get code out there and code will follow up. That's the drill.
That's the drill.
That's the drill.
Okay. And the third question is the public benefit. One of the really interesting ways, because the public benefit,
Work?
the microphones do work. I can speak louder. The public benefit, that's the other part that is really challenging for us. And there are times where the public benefit was defined as $25,000 towards reforestation or replanting. I don't know if you've ever done estimates on public planting. I can't reforest my lot, which is less than half an acre, for $25,000,
Right.
including labor and planting. So some of the ideas of what the public benefit for higher density or certain structure, at least in the past, have been more of an insult to our intelligence as the villagers. How do we address that? Because you can only work within a certain limitation of the code, and when it's not defined, how do we navigate that?
Well, we being the public get involved. You come to the hearings, you hear the project stuff, you voice your concerns. That's one. We are working with the Conservation Advisory Council to give us advice on tree clearing, tree species for replanting, maintenance plans, things like that. So we're trying to invigorate and drag in the Conservation Advisory Council and the tree clearing committee, or the tree committee, to educate the planning board, educate the staff on that kind of stuff. I forgot exactly what your question was, but basically, again, it's
The public benefit.
the public benefit, okay. The only time public benefit is required is when they go for a 4th floor in the C2 district. All the other things are a matter of either a mitigation to an impact, which is not necessarily a public benefit, or fees that come out of park fees or recreation fees or something like that. So the amount of money that we get is usually by formula. Okay, so we do the best we can with that. I think the one project you were talking about got $25,000 for trees. So they buy the trees with that money, but those monies are not going into the labor of planting trees or anything like that. It'll just be that. So public benefits only go for when they ask for that 4th floor in the C2 district. And then we talk about a substantial public benefit. Again, like I said, I went for the moon. I say, knock down buildings and build me a surface parking lot so we don't have this problem moving forward in the C2 district. They said, well, that's gonna cost us a lot of money, but maybe it'll work. How many units are you gonna give us? We don't do that. By the way, we don't have density in the village that is, 5 units to the acre, 8 units to the acre, something like that. You back into the density based on the size of the habitable space in the units. And habitable space is defined by the building code, et cetera, et cetera. So if you need 400 square feet of habitable space and you give us a 300 square foot apartment, you're not gonna get that approved. If you give us a 401 square foot apartment, as long as there's 400 square feet of habitable space and you can still get all the other stuff in there, your storage, mechanical rooms, all that stuff that's not habitable. So you see that when we get new units in, they're usually pretty sizable. It's the existing units in the village that people want to get permitted for an apartment or something like that we have a lot of problems.
Alrighty, let's get questions. I see a lot of them. There was one person here, there was one person there. 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do another round. Please.
So,
Can you speak up?
Yeah, two comments. My husband's faculty at the university, and a lot of the graduate students, postdoctoral fellows who are in their 30s, apartment owner or dwellers, basically, are having enormous difficulties charging their electric cars. We need more electric chargers, possible public benefit thought in particularly rental areas. The other question I have is there are many communities that I'm aware of, because I spent 35 years in California, where basically villages, towns are requiring all development to be net neutral, no natural gas, solar, geothermal. What is the constraint? What are the possible ways that we can impose for the fact that climate change is beginning